guiding light.
Haritara rihora ryaka muri nge nirisiba kumurika no mu bihe bigoye nirizima
bikamurikira bikabuza amarira.
My heart and hope I do not die. And even when everything isn't right, push my fist and look up to the sky. Carry on, I hope I do survive. Bring the truth to who just wanted life. And even when everything isn't right, eventually now we gon' be alright. Eventually, if I do say so, teach my brothers and sisters what I didn't know. Keep my heart and soul from ever being cold. That's the only way our truth will be told. Eventually, if I do say so, maybe not today, but maybe kesho. Zahora nuru muri bwejo, mana humeza mururu jendo. Mururu jendo, mana humeza mururu jendo.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to you from wherever you are around the world. Welcome to day 2 of the 6th edition of the Ubumuntu Arts Festival. We had the unconference and Ikaza night yesterday, and it was awesome. But don't worry, if you missed out though, you can catch the highlights on the festival website. Now, like I said yesterday, the conversation is on our hashtag on Twitter, hashtag Ubumuntu Arts Festival. That's where you need to be hyping, sharing, tweeting your experience that you're watching through live on your screens. If you haven't downloaded the event app, Please do, honestly. There's a lot of interesting conversations, and you can interact with the performers and speakers. To kick us off today, we have Ambassador Peter H. Vrooman, the United States Ambassador to the Republic of Rwanda. Welcome, Ambassador.
Well, oops, that's not very decorous. Ubumuntu 2020. Stop, breathe, live. Hagarara, humeka, baho. There's an Arabic expression, fikul lisan insan, which means that in every language or tongue, there's a human being or a personality. If you modify the word insan just a bit, you can expand the idea to mean a humanity, insaniya. The play on words and roots in Semitic languages like Arabic is a delight for me, and I have found it too in Rwanda, a Bantu language. Indeed, the arts festival that brings us all here today, Ubumuntu, invokes much more than its literal translation in English, humanity. And let me dwell on that for just a moment on the root of this word, nu, from which many ideas can grow and sprout. For example, from the word or the root nu, you can build ichinu, a thing, ibinhu, things, or look closer at hand and see akanu, or utunu, small things. And from that observation and that language lesson, you might say, nu leads to everything. But nu is much more than the root of all things. It is simply and powerfully a person, umunhu, or more grandly and more generally, a people, abanu. From this you can see the family of African languages that is known as Bantu or Banhu, depending on your pronunciation. But wait, nu is not just the root of people and things. It becomes the way, ukunhu, as well as the place, ahanu. And powerfully, it contributes to concepts as well, like art and music and theater that bring us all together. For example, ubuntu, or grace, and finally, ubumunhu, humanity. In short, this small root, nu, can become the world we live in, with different twists of the tongue, depending on where we stop or breathe. What is unique and inspiring about the Ubumuntu Arts Festivals that I have experienced here in Rwanda, virtually, and then also at Gisozi in person, and that we have supported from the embassy, is the power to bring people, things, and concepts from many places and in different ways together here in Rwanda to celebrate humanity, to respect our humanity, and to preserve and to protect it. This is all the more important during and after times of commemoration or kwibuka, such as the International Holocaust Remembrance Day on January 27th, the International Day of Reflection on the Genocide against the Tutsi on April 7th, and more recently, the 25th anniversary of the genocide in Srebrenica on July 11th. At these times, we remember the inhumanity of genocide and look for hope. And hope was Zeta. To breathe new life and to renew our faith in humanity. Allow me now, at this time, to introduce my friends from Mindleaps, a dance troupe who will perform Breath of Life. Rwanda mukirikiri imhumeko yubuzima yabinwe na Mindleaps. Reka duhagarare duhumekche tubeho. Thank you. Mindleaps.
They will come for you. They will rob you of your balloon and ask you to smile. They will come for you. They will come for your magic. They will come because your heart glows in the dark. Because you are familiar but not the same. Because there is love in your throat. Because every 9 months you give birth to a soldier. They will come for you just in case. So put your dreams in your front pocket. Use the ones before you as ankle weights and raise the sun. The oppressed outnumber the oppressors. Protect your magic. Freedom is on the move. And they will come.
Once upon a time, we sang one song. We danced one dance, we got along. Once upon a time, we intertwined, we wined and dined, we were just fine. But when unwanted guests joined our fest and changed our beat, our feet got lost in a rhythm of extreme divisionism. Suddenly, we misunderstood the meaning of patriotism and bought into a notion of barbarism. And when we did this, we lost. We lost when we forgot that we were one people. That's when all our good turned to evil. We lost when we forgot that we shared the same culture and started targeting our own as would a vulture. We lost when we forgot that we spoke the same language, yet failed to understand one another. We lost when we forgot that we were sisters and brothers. And so we lost so much that we lost ourselves, allowed a living world to become a living hell. We lost so much, we lost 1,000,000 of our own. We lost so much, we will live to mourn those who were torn away from us. We lost so much when we forgot to trust in us. Which is why we must remember. We must remember the dear lives lost and what that cost us as a nation. We must remember that division leads to doom, that unity leads to bloom. So beware of even the hushed conversations of divisionism inside the comfort of your living room. We must remember to be the defenders of our values and not the offenders. Because only together can never again truly be never again. We must remember not to forget that we lost when we forgot.
Hello, my name is Kaneza Schaal. I live and make theater in New York City, and I am delighted to share Cartography with you today. I created this performance as a way for all of us to consider the histories of movement in our own lives, the migrations, whether recent or many generations past, that are part of this long continuum of human movement that brings us to our current historical moment where there are more displaced peoples than ever before in human history. As Rwandans, we understand that the intricate lace of comings and goings, of fleeings and escapings, of rediscoverings, this builds our understanding of ourselves, of each other, and of the world. I wanted to create a performance that would invite many different kinds of people into that knowledge. Cartography came out of work that I did with my collaborator, artist and writer Christopher Myers in Munich, Germany in 2016. We traveled there to work with young people who had come to the city alone seeking asylum. They had come from Nigeria and Somalia and Eritrea and Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria. They had walked across forests and traveled across the Mediterranean Ocean in inflatable rafts. We wanted to think about what tools do we have as artists to address moments of crises? What are the tools we have as artists to ask big questions about the most important ideas in our time? The thing that excited me the most about the work in Munich was the way that art can provide a platform for conversation. It can provide an invitation to ask questions and think about complex ideas. It can provide a way for us to build the stories that will build the world we want to live in. So Cartography was an answer to the time in Munich, a way to continue those conversations and a way to platform a conversation with people from many different walks of life who may have an intimate personal knowledge of what it means to pick up their lives and flee, or may have a vague understanding that many generations ago, someone in their family dreamed themselves into a new life. We are honored to be sharing Cartography at the Ubumuntu Festival. The performance itself follows 4 young people in a waiting room. They're filling out the paperwork to enter a new country. And it's impossible to fit the complexity and contradiction and nuance of their lives into the tiny spaces in the paperwork. We move between the young people in the waiting room filling out paperwork and scenes where they imagine new ways to answer these questions, new ways to think about these ideas. The clip we show you today will end with a section of the performance where the actors come forward and tell their own histories of movement. So you will see Rwanda's beloved Malaika Uwamahoro speaking to the audience directly. Rwanda is providing home and refuge to many people who are seeking safety right now. So we could not be more honored to share Cartography at the Ubumuntu Festival, and I look forward to seeing you at the amphitheater in Kigali next summer. We hope you enjoy the show.
Nari gusinzira iyaba we
يلا تنام يلا تنام يذبح لك طير الحمام روح يا حمام لا تصدق نضحك عريمة لا تنام ريمة ريمة الحندقة شعرك أشقر ومنقى ويلي بيحبك بيبوسك واللي بعدك شو بيترقى
No llores, mi niña, no llores, mi amor, no llores, pedazo de mi corazón. No llores, mi niña, cabeza de ayote. Si no te dormís, te come el coyote. No llores, mi niña. Hari indirimbo mama wanje yandirimbiraga ngiye kuryama. Ubu sinibuka amagambo yayo. Si ngombwa. Nubundi sindi buryame.
في تهليلة كانت تغني لي إياها أمي قبل ما أنام بس ماني متذكر كلماتها وأصلاً مو ضروري أتذكر لأنه ما حنام.
Hay una canción de cuna que mi mamá cantaba. No me recuerdo las palabras, no las necesito. No voy a dormir.
There is a lullaby my mother used to sing. I cannot remember the words right now. I don't need them anyways. I won't be sleeping. Is this where the line starts?
Depends. What do you mean, where it starts?
Like, where is the beginning of the line?
My line started a few months ago.
When mine started, I was in bed, asleep. The walls were shaking.
My parents sat us down and told us why it was a good time for us to go.
It was the first time I ever packed a bag.
They told me what I should say if anyone stopped me.
Plenty of people stopped me.
I hid money inside my shoe.
I had never been on a boat before.
Seen snow before.
Slept outside before.
Missed breakfast before.
I had never missed home before.
My line started there too, I guess. Unknown, a little scared, but...
You can tell where people come from by how they wait in a line. The less people have, the closer the line becomes, until you meet the people who have nothing, who stand so close they begin to overlap.
But what?
This is the place we're supposed to be now, right?
Inshallah, Habibti, this is the
I
place.
guess.
Did I miss anything?
The man with the suit came. He showed us where all the forms were.
More forms, always with the forms.
You see, a great society is made out of forms. I want to use the bathroom. Do you have the right piece of paper?
Funny guy.
So what did he say?
We have to use pen. If we need an interpreter, they can try and find one, but no guarantees.
Did he say what the forms were for?
He gave a little speech, weird little speech. He'd practiced the speech.
Okay there, everyone. You're all gonna have to fill out these papers, basically.
Why is everything always basically with these people? Nothing has been basic since I left home.
Basically, these papers are gonna tell us where you've been, what you've been doing, what or who you're bringing with you, and all the information we're gonna need to make an informed decision about your case.
Then he takes a few steps towards the door, adjusts his pants, and
Why
turns
do you have
back.
to tell us he adjusted his pants?
Because he did, like he was getting ready to do some heavy lifting. And then he turns around and says, it's like if you were inviting someone to your house. If you had a house, it'd be the same thing. You'd want to know what they were doing in your neighborhood, how long they expected to stay, whose house they were in before, and if they were cool when they were there. And they want you to pay $160 for the privilege of telling you this information and call it a filing fee. Just exactly what I did back home. Bienvenida, stranger. Here's our Fanta and also, some tear gas. Do you want to use the bathroom? Don't forget the forms.
Funny again. She's trying to hear what's needed. What did he say?
Some more things about pens and translators and his house and taking care of his house. And then he finished off with, we're happy to have you here. We just need to know a few things, a few details. All you have to do is tell us what brought you here.
I was walking in a forest.
On a rocky shoreline.
The voices outside were speaking French. Maybe some were Spanish, but we couldn't see anything.
I have seen Macedonia on the map, and they say but I was asleep.
We waited in Alexandria for 3 months.
There are so many kittens on the island.
There are no signs on the water. I couldn't tell you.
A map is a thing to tell you where you are going.
Where you have been.
Where you are right now.
A map is a drawing on a piece of paper that tells you where safety is.
A map is a blue dot on a cell phone screen.
A map is a rumor you heard that there is a man who sits in the park wearing a red hat. He can get you papers.
Really?
A map is having a face that looks like the photo on the temporary passport you bought with all your money from the man with the red hat.
A map is having a face that doesn't arouse suspicion.
Or a smile that makes a policeman overlook you this time.
A map is knowing all the right answers to put in the form at the border.
A map is having a story that impresses people. I want to be a doctor.
A map is all the different papers you will need, you will fill out tests.
Paper is the most important thing. I keep it in a plastic bag inside the pocket of my backpack, dry and safe, even when I am not. Everywhere we go, men in uniform stop and ask me for paper. Money folded into palms of hands, vaccination records. Yes, I went to high school. See, there is my father's name. Please, can you call this number for me? I know my passport has expired. So has my country. If I had a visa, that piece of paper would be stronger than all the others, and I would hold it in front of me like an umbrella. But better to keep it in a plastic bag, to keep it dry and safe.
A map is a plastic bag that keeps all the other maps.
I once had a map hand-drawn in ink that is now washed away. just a blur of what I wanted.
A map is every time you can say to someone where you want to go.
I have an uncle who drives a taxi. He can get you anywhere you need. After all, he got himself to the city and became a taxi driver. And there was no map for that.
A map is when your face looks like the faces of the people you are talking to, even when your accent doesn't.
A map is a skill. Do you think Mo Farah would be British if he couldn't run so fast?
Weren't his parents born in British Somaliland?
Don't make it complicated.
The British made it complicated.
Nibjo.
Somebody told me football is a religion here. The players are their gods. But sometimes they're calling the football players monkeys. Balotelli was crying when they threw bananas. I cannot play as well as them. I am no god. I wonder what they will call me.
Is sadness a map?
When people say it's women or children, that always seems to open hearts.
Open hearts are a map, and rare.
I have a full deck of SIM cards. I plug each of them into my phone and talk to a different country. Each one is a gamble, a lottery ticket to a friendly voice.
I keep all my papers in my phone, pictures of passports and driver's licenses.
I have the Bible on my phone.
God could tell you where to go. God got me this far.
I grew up with holy books. Old men carried them to worship. Here, the only holy books are passports. And I don't know if I want the heaven inside those pages.
Maybe the only map I need is the Lord.
And an immigration officer who believes in the same Lord you do.
My dreams are my maps. Everywhere I want to go, I dreamed of first.
And so you dreamed of a grey immigration office and an endless line?
Y'all need better dreams.
I had a dream on the boat when it was just us and we couldn't see land. It was the thin blue line of the horizon pressing against the sky. And I imagined that the rest of the world had fallen away. And soon, all of Europe would come swimming towards our boat. And they would try to push us out. And we would ask them each in turn for their papers to join us on the orange raft in the middle of the blue water.
I have been so many kinds of lost since I left.
Lost in customs.
In faces, in forests, on water.
I've been lost climbing trains and under tarps.
I've been lost in the holds of a cargo truck.
Lost in hunger, in drought.
In cities.
I have been more kinds of lost than I knew.
Every kind of lost needs a map.
I have been keeping a list of my debts. I owe 17 to the neighbor whose sneakers I borrowed. She won't be needing them, but still. I owe the man who told me that the water would carry me if I let it. I owe the breath in 16 people's lungs who took turns blowing into a raft in between whispers. I owe the gold and silver blankets they gave us when we reached the shores, and for a moment, I was royalty. I owe every one of my uncles who scraped together stories to use at each and every border. I owe my mother for the food she prepared. It only lasted a day, but it will feed me for so much longer. I owe every stranger who smiled at me when I was wearing second-hand clothes. I thought for a moment you had recognized the shirt I was wearing as once yours. And that was almost as warm as home.
It isn't there anymore, I said. What isn't there anymore, she asked. Jess, I replied, knowing that whatever she could name, I would be right.
There should be a space on the form for cousin who is like a brother.
If they want to get to know us, they're going to need a lot more spaces on those forms. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, I'm Malaika. If you ask my uncles and aunts where we come from, they will tell you that years and years ago, we came from Egypt. That we had cattle and that we were nomads. Because in every story of our past, we have cattle. My people have cattle dances even. We stretch our arms as wide as the horns, and no one can imagine a past in which they are poor. If you ask my mother, she will tell you that the airlines provided good work, that she could see the world, and that she wore uniforms the color of the ocean. If you ask her, she will tell you that she wondered what it would be like if she had finished school. If she might have been one of the angry passengers asking for more peanuts on the Air France flight. She will tell you that every time she flew and every child she took care of on those long trips with the extra desserts and blankets made her think a little of me waiting for her at home, wondering if any of the planes passing overhead held her. She will tell you that every time she pinned those souvenir wings onto those airplane children, she thought about the wings she wanted to give me so that I could fly wherever I wanted and so that I knew that I was supposed to be on planes and go places. If you ask my mother's father, he will look at you sternly. You see, he had escaped many times worlds that fell apart and so built for himself this kind of safety, this kind of order. He was an army to himself in those days. When he spoke, people listened. And when he told my mother that he would kill her if she were ever pregnant out of wedlock, oh, he meant it. She ran away in the 11th grade with me inside her. But if you ask him now, he will tell you how she escaped another world falling apart. This genocide like he did, but this time in a truck with a red cross on its side. If you ask me, I will tell you that it is because I can act, because I listen, and because I can move people and build on all the ones who we have asked before, who pinned golden wings to me, who built worlds that wouldn't fall apart so easily. If you ask me, I will tell you that it is because when I act, I share the script with my mother and she reads it and asks, Malaika, why do you have to kiss this or that person on screen? I share it, this acting, with all those who we have asked before and try just a little bit to use the wings that they have given me.
Let me just take this opportunity to applaud all the artists we have seen so far. I've been challenged, motivated, and just in awe of their talent. And to think we're just getting started. You got that right. For those that are just joining us right now, grab a snack, get cozy because you're in for a treat. Don't forget to hashtag us using the hashtag Ubumuntu Arts Festival on Twitter. Tweet, share, tag. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you feel. The performance coming up next is captivating and unique. Stones by Orto-da Performing Arts from Israel. Stones is a visual poetic event created by Yinon Zafir. This performance is inspired by the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising Monument by Nathan Rappaport. Stones tells a story through the eyes of a sculpture that comes to life. Enjoy.
Stones is a stage show that deals with the Holocaust, with redemption, and with everyday life here in Israel. It does all of that in a rather unusual way. With me in the studio are 4 members of the Orto-da theater group. Yinon Zafir, Moti Sabag, Michael Marks, and Yaniv Moyal. Thank you for coming. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
So to put all of this in some context, let's take a quick look at a clip from the show and come back. So, Yinon, you're the spokesstone of the group, let's say. Can you sum up the idea of the show for me?
It's not so easy in so quick, but it's a story about the 120th century, starting with the Second World War II, and until the times of today, about the monument of the Warsaw Ghetto warriors.
Right, that's the main inspiration, right?
Yes.
That's where you got the idea for this show.
Yes.
Okay, so you saw the monument, and what did you think?
Yeah, I think we need to bring it to the time of today, to Israel, in order to look at the eyes of the public and look also about the Holocaust and the history from a point of view of stones that see the craziness of the human being, and to try to build something that started in the past, going to the present days and going to the future, in order to bring the spirit of the victory of the human spirit, and in order to feel and to say that nobody can break the human free spirit ever.
I see. So it's kind of a different perspective from a like a stone that sees it all go by, and is that the kind of perspective that you're trying to bring?
Yes, it's a funny point of view, also, and clever point of view, and on a tragedy. So this make a very big emotion and conflict between tragedy and comedy, and also visual and a lot of emotions. And we started to develop 15 minutes, and then we succeeded after a lot of street festivals that we perform in to get a lot of awards. Among them, one of the...
Yeah, you've been putting the show. I mean, you've been touring with the show for quite a while now, and it's getting some major reactions.
Yes, we built this 1 hour. It took us 6 years with the support of great mime artist Daniel Zafrani, and we built minute by minute, and we got an award for one of the best 10 shows in the world, and 9 more for every theater elements in the show, light, costumes, props, everything.
Right, and you keep changing it, right? It's a show that keeps changing, isn't it?
We are flexible to hear what the audience think, and we are changing and doing a short version in the street festival, also in big festival. For example, now we're going to Moscow for the Holocaust Day. We are giving the 1 hour version, and after we go to Lyon, to Marseille, and to Germany to give 30 minutes in a street festival in Kronberg, for example.
And this mix of these, serious issues on the one hand, but humor and also a lot of fun and laughter in the show. Does it go by okay? People react to it happily?
Yeah, I think some people laugh more, some people cry more. We cannot control what they think, because our Orto-da method is we're doing it on purpose, not to use words and give visual for the audience. But we have a lot of criticism inside this show that people are understanding. But also when we're performing in China or in places that people doesn't understand nothing about the history, they keep on looking at. It's very technically, visually, they cannot take the eyes from it.
Right.
We know, because we are doing
impressive.
it in the street. We do it, and they don't have to stay there.
Yeah, and still they do. I definitely understand why. This is not something I'll forget soon. Yinon and the rest of the Stone group, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Smile without a reason why. Love as if you were a child. Smile no matter what they tell you. Don't listen to a word they say.
life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Yet another incredible performance. Next up is Toni Blackman, an American rapper specializing in freestyle hip-hop, an actress and writer who was the first hip-hop ambassador to the US State Department. She is up next with a spoken word piece, Invisible Woman. Enjoy.
I am an invisible woman. Not because people refuse to see me, they know I am there. It's as if my womanness detracts from my existence, and my presence too often mistaken for absence. I am an invisible woman, whose words don't flow fast enough, whose beats just aren't fat enough, whose contribution goes unseen. They know I am here because I was there. See, I rock the mic as he did. I spit rhymes as he did. I bore hip-hop as he did. We nurtured it. I am an invisible woman. I am an invisible woman. Now, I may not be seen, but I'll be damned if I won't be heard. Yes. So I am Toni Blackman. I'm a woman in hip-hop, and I wrote that piece because I got tired of being ignored and thought that the best way to honor myself would be to honor my voice.
Yes! Thank you so much, Toni, for that. Let us all stand up and be heard. Not just women, but each and every one of us. Let our voice be heard for justice. Let our voice be heard for equality and equity. Let our voice be heard for humanity. 2020 has been a tough year this year. And some incidences have made us wonder if humanity is still alive. But here at Ubumuntu, we believe that humanity is still alive. Yes. And we are here to fan the flames. Yes, we are. Up next is Breathless, where Christopher Bailey talks about the importance of breathing in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and Black Lives Matter movement. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Christopher Bailey. I'm the Arts and Health Lead at the World Health Organization, and I would like to thank Hope for inviting me to participate in the Ubumuntu Festival, which I believe is both a Rwandan festival and, by virtue of this internet event, a global one as well. So I feel comfortable because I've spent some time in Rwanda, and I love the country very much and the people. And working for the UN, I've spent a lot of time in the world. And so I feel comfortable in both aspects of this event. I call this piece Breathless, which in a way is appropriate because my first experience in Rwanda was the sensation of having my breath taken away by the beauty of the Mille Collines and the people. And as I learned the stories of the country and the people, there was a sense of breathlessness too, of the pain that was caused by the genocide, of which this festival, I understand it taking place in June, is commemorating the end of that event, but also the capacity for redemption, the capacity to move beyond the horror. Today is Juneteenth, which in America is a day honored by African Americans on the end of slavery. A different kind of Holocaust that was perpetrated against people of African descent by my people. And we've seen two things that have evolved in the last few weeks that I don't think are unrelated. The COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement. I know for me, when I think of breathing, it's something that we take for granted. It's something that we do thoughtlessly. It's a part of our life. It's part of the rhythm of our life. And like a heartbeat and like the strides of our walking, when it's working well, we don't think about it. And when something's wrong, we feel that struggle. We feel that panic of not being able to do something that we all took for granted. When a friend of mine was hospitalized with COVID-19 a few weeks ago, I remember his last call. He said that he had to get off the phone, and I asked him why, and he said, "I can't breathe." He was alone the last week of his life because of quarantine. Until finally, he gave up his last breath. Another friend of mine, who's single and doesn't have any family or roommates, had been quarantined for a number of weeks, hadn't come into any physical contact with people except the occasional foray into grocery shopping. And the sense of claustrophobia of that lockdown was beginning to weigh on her. And I asked her to describe what she was feeling, and she said, "I can't breathe." Another friend of mine was in a bad marriage and had an oppressive husband. Everything she did was wrong. Everything was judged. Everything was paid attention to. Until finally she said, "I can't breathe." Across the internet, on social media, on news broadcasts, we've seen an image of a man held down by police with a knee to his neck, who said, "I can't breathe," 16 times in 8 minutes. What we're seeing in the US, in capitals around the world, is a growing recognition that we need to be able to breathe, physically and spiritually. The word spirit comes from the Latin, which means breath. That when we can no longer breathe, we expire. And when we breathe life into someone else, even in our death, we inspire. In this COVID-19 pandemic, the way it works is when the virus comes into our system, it causes what's called a cytokine storm. And it's an autoimmune reaction where our body's defense system begins to kick in And it's not the COVID-19 that actually will kill us. It's the ancillary conditions that are triggered by the autoimmune response. So it could be the bacteria from pneumonia that kills us that was triggered by the virus, or a stroke, or blood clots, etc. But so too, just as our bodies are reacting to the virus in a way that is detrimental, so too is our society reacting to this situation, and the earth itself. People are demanding to breathe free. Satellite photographs of major metropolitan areas around the world have seen during this period of lockdown the skies clear, people breathing freely for the first time in decades, being able to see the Himalayas in the distance in India. This awakening is happening all over the world. And maybe in this lockdown, as we see our family members and we reassess what our relationships mean, and we look at our lover, and we remember that moment when we first met, and that spark turns into a fire, and remember how it felt when your movement, your smile, took our breath away. As an American, the first time I saw the Statue of Liberty, I read the inscription on the bottom, and it's very famous, but I'd like to draw your attention to it. It's not just for America, I think it's for the world. It says, "Give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." So when this pandemic is over, and it will be over, breathe free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for that. Desmond Tutu said, "My humanity is bound in yours, for we can only be human together. We are different precisely in order to realize our need for one another." His profound words have been the inspiration behind the Ubumuntu Festival slogan, "I am because you are. You are because I am. We are human together." If at all you remember nothing else from this festival, remember that, but I'm sure you remember everything. Have you ever thought of the restorative power of truth-telling? Well, you're about to. Tali Netz, the founder and director of Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, Freddie Mutanguha, executive director, Aegis Trust, and Gloria Karengera, a lawyer by profession, with a love for theater and performing arts, will discuss cultural spaces of remembrance and the importance of resurrecting memory in the name of justice.
Are two guest speakers who have a combined experience of managing cultural spaces. And today they'll give us a little bit about what they do and also bring on board their anecdotes of wisdom. Before I dive in, allow me to introduce them. Here in Rwanda is Freddie Mutanguha, who is the executive director, Aegis Trust. Welcome, Freddie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joining us from Johannesburg is Talia Netz, who is the founder and director of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. Welcome, Talia.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
And I will be your host, Gloria Karengera. So I would like to kick this off by asking Freddie, Given the context today, the theme that we're discussing, what does truth mean?
Oh, thank you, Gloria. And first of all, thank you to Mashirika for inviting me and giving me opportunity to be part of these important discussions. Gloria, allow me to talk more about the truth in the context of post-genocide or post-conflict situation, where I will describe the truth as one of the very important instruments in the process of reconciliation. And this instrument really helps to restore the relations between people or communities in opposition. So it's all about the reconstruction of a history of genocide and violence. And when you do that, it delegitimize the violence and injustice that was committed against people or a particular group of people. It does so by unpacking and deconstructing the ideologies that lead to genocide. And when you do that, it's really discouraging the deniers. Those people who do the revision of the history, they are all challenged and they cannot really pursue this objective because the people have already known the truth. I would say that also the collection of the truth is very important in preservation of memory, which we do. Me and Italy, and especially in Kigali Genocide Memorial, which is a story-based museum, where we collected different stories from perpetrators, from rescuers, from survivors, but also we have, of course, paper-based documents that support this truth to be clear. I would say that it's also about the historical clarity, which is very essential in terms of long-lasting peace and social change. Finally, I know that time is running, but finally, I will say that the truth-telling is very important in education purpose, because knowing the truth of what happened, it helps the young generation to deal with the present, but also to predict how to deal with the future as well. So I will stop by here. If you have more questions about it, you're welcome.
So basically, in a nutshell, for you, truth means deconstructing the facts and what happened, basically telling it as it is. That's what truth means for you.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe Talia can kind of take us through what museums have done in portraying truth. What exactly do you do in the museum that helps people who come to visit understand the truth? What practical examples can you give us?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And again, thank you so much for inviting me for this really important panel. So I'm representing the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. It's a museum in Johannesburg, South Africa. And how do you tell a story of genocide? How do you tell a story of the Holocaust, of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, but also other genocides like the Herero and Nama genocide in Namibia, or the Armenian genocide that happened during the First World War in the walls of a museum? And you do it in different ways. You have to access the stories through film and art and poetry and testimonies. And you have to use for example, artifacts, objects. For example, in our museum, we have a violin that belonged to a Holocaust survivor that tells all his story from before the Holocaust, during the Holocaust, and after the Holocaust. You have different testimonies that can tell a story, a very full story. And the way to access truth and the way to access those powerful stories is through listening to multiple voices, not one voice alone. So listen to victims, listen to survivors, but also listen to bystanders, witnesses that just watched, You need to listen to people that resisted, people that rescued, people that perpetrated. Try and understand why they perpetrated a crime at that time. And in a way, in doing that, you see a full story. And maybe I'll give a small example and a personal example of how do you do that. I'm a daughter of survivors. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and he was saved by the now very famous Oskar Schindler. He was on Schindler's List. Now, how do I tell in the museum the story of Oskar Schindler? I tell it from my father's point of view, the others that survived, through the document itself. So you see a document of the list, through the story of the rescuer, Oskar Schindler, his journey, and through the story of those that did not survive. My grandmother, for example, she was not on the list. What happened to her? How was she murdered? In that way, you construct a full story and you see the truth of that story from many angles.
Thank you, Talia. So just to kind of bring it back to Freddie, you've already explained to us what truth means. But in the times where people begin to debate my truth versus your truth, how have you tried to manage that?
Yeah, I think it's very important when the truth is told. You feel that there is a connection between people because people trust each other. In Rwanda, for example, it passed through different, of course, initiatives, the Unity and Reconciliation Commission, the Gacaca process that have been happening. But what I liked in this way is how the Gacaca gave a platform to survivors to express their feelings, to give their own testimonies and then tell the truth of what they have seen and how they've been victimized. But also it gave a platform and opportunity to perpetrators to even acknowledge their responsibilities and also to confess and ask for forgiveness. So all have been happening that way. And I think the truth of survivors and the truth of perpetrators came together to solidify the relationships between two opposing communities, which I think have been a fantastic process and phenomenon.
Must have been a very, very beautiful process.
Yeah.
Back to Talia. You're a historian and have taught the subject of genocide. Can you take us quickly through the different categories of people who we usually see as being part of the process, either those who aggravate the situation or those who come in to sort of calm the storm? How has truth impacted these different sets of people?
So always in every genocide, you have many role players. Genocide, of course, it's the intentional, systematic targeting of a minority group, usually by a government, usually not, it's never happening in a democracy, or it always happens under a dictatorship of a kind, and it always happens under the guise of war. Every genocide, if you look at the Herero and Nama, or Armenia, or the Holocaust, or the genocide against the Tutsi, or even in today's world, the sadly modern genocide of the 21st century. So you always have to look at the different role players. You always have to look at the perpetrators and their choices, because people make choices. And the perpetrators, perhaps because of fear, because of the elders, because of the government, because of different reasons, greed, wanting to steal property, will choose to perpetrate a crime. You will have, of course, the victims. You always have victims. Victims never want to be victims. No victim says, me, I want to become a victim. No one wants to become a victim, but the victims are victimized and they are targeted for annihilation, for killing. You have to tell the story of the victims, but how do you tell those stories? From artifacts, from testimonies, from writing, diaries, memoirs, and so on. also from survivors, people that survived and can share those stories with us. And finally, you have the groups that are standing aside and have to make a decision to get involved or not. And you have those that are bystanders. Bystanders never help the victims. They always help the perpetrators by choosing not to do anything, by just standing by. You have to look at that and you have to try to convince them to become activists. So in every museum, in every history, you need to learn about resistors, about rescuers, people that rescued. For example, I gave the example of my father and Oscar Schindler that rescued him. I'm alive because of a rescuer that saved my father. I would not be alive if not that. So that is another layer of the story. And finally, I mentioned them before, the resistors are very important. Those that are standing and saying, not in my name, I will resist this. This is not right. And they do it by words, by writing, by armed resistance, and so on. I think that what is really important is to tell stories of all those groups, to deconstruct it and make it very real. So maybe finally, a very quick example is the example from Rwanda of Carl Wilkins, the only American that stayed in Rwanda and helped Damas Gisimba to save the 400 orphans in the orphanage. It's a choice. So you deconstruct that choice, you look at who did what, and you tell a full story of how 400 men, women, and children survived the genocide.
Thank you, Tali. So Freddie, as we slowly bring this to a close, why should we care about restorative power? Why is it so important for people to understand that we must care for this? We must all feel like we're party to this restorative power. Why is it so important?
Yeah, it's definitely very important. As we just mentioned before, the storytelling approach really helps to break the cycle of violence, and it prevents any revenge, and also it reduces the anger inside the society. But also it restores the human values, the positive human values, Ubumuntu values that we lost the time of genocide and of violence on mass atrocities. But of course, this has a cost because you have to create a very peaceful environment where you invite the perpetrators and survivors to fully participate in this process. And as I mentioned, I give example to Rwanda about Gacaca and how these two groups have been really given that platform. And I think it's very important because what was very urgent in Rwanda, when we started the process of rebuilding and reconstruction of the country, you know, being destroyed completely in 1994 in the genocide against Tutsi. What was very urgent was to restore the relations with people and bring back the harmonious cohabitation in the hills of Rwanda. Because when genocide happened, we didn't have a Tutsi land, we didn't have a Hutu land at that time. People have to come back and live together. So the restoration of the relationship between people was very, very important and very urgent to bring back the unity and reconciliation into the Rwandan society. So the restoration is very important.
Okay, and thank you for that, Freddie. And Tali, if you could take us through how the museums do this practically, how have they helped with the healing process? I know you've already told us how you portray truth, given the different examples you just gave us, but how has that led into the healing process? What examples can you give us?
This is really the most important thing that you're asking, Gloria, because how do you translate this ideas of truth, ideas of restorative justice into a museum setting where thousands and thousands of people are coming and learning about the past? And also, it is a space where the survivors can feel a connection. So let's start with that. Let's start with imagining survivors and their families, their children, coming to a museum, seeing their stories on the wall, listening to testimonies, reading the poetry, listening to the music that I described before. That in itself is so powerful and so healing because they know that they are not forgotten. Their families are not forgotten. And not only now in 2020, even in 30 years' time, in 40 years' time, after they pass, their stories will be there and their children and grandchildren will know that their stories are there and not forgotten. So I think the healing is through the lessons that others learn from your story. So to know that there is power in your story. It's not just a story that you'll say, a story. It's a story with a lesson. It's a story with a lesson for humanity, not just a quick story and a quick lesson. It's something to allow us to really learn. And I'll again use an example because I think those are really the important ones. So in our exhibition, there is one story from Rwanda. There are many, many stories from Rwanda, but one story of a survivor that never knew what happened to his family. He knew that they were murdered, his mother and his father, but didn't know what happened to them. He lived in Johannesburg for a while. He studied here and he shared his testimony with schools. By sharing his testimony with schools, he healed. He was allowed to be listened to. He was allowed to be respected. And by doing that, he told that school that all he wants is to know what happened to his mother and his father and his siblings. The girls, it was a girls' school here in Johannesburg, decided to go into action. They learned the lesson. They collected money, bought him a ticket to go back to Rwanda. He attended the gacaca. He met the perpetrators that killed his father and also his mother. It's a long story. I don't have the time to tell the story, but they told him where the remains are. And through the process, he found the remains of his mother, he found the remains of his father and managed to give them a proper burial. And when he found his mother, he found a rosary held in her clenched hand and a key of her house in her other hand. And he donated it with his story to our museum. And now think about the lesson, the healing that happens when many schools are coming, listening and learning this story and making a connection to themselves, to the key that they have in their pocket, to the rosary maybe that they have or another religious object. And they are connected to an identity, to a life, to richness of family, and also to murder, genocide. And they are linked to the healing power of what one person can do to another to better their life.
Talia and Freddie, I can't say how grateful I am for having you today. These 5 minutes I have a lot to think about now. I thought I knew everything there was to know, but there's always something new to discover. But we need to now move on to the next performance. I would like to thank you so much for having been with us this afternoon. And God bless. The festival was blessed to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. This was great, and thank you very much for your leadership in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you from my side, Gloria and Freddie, my friend and colleague. It was an honor to be here and share some of our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Tali. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tali. Thank you so much, Freddie and Gloria. Amazing talk. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I know it's that time for me to bid you farewell. Don't worry. We're not done yet. But of course, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Fola for the rest of the festival today. I will see you tomorrow, of course, so don't you worry about that. You'll see my face again. And make sure to keep the hashtag Ubumuntu Arts Festival alive on Twitter. Make sure you tweet, tag, share, and let us know how you're feeling and let us know what you think. I leave you with this next piece called Sarajevo. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Goodbye.
The civil war is moments from erupting in post-World War II Yugoslavia. Different regions fight for their independence. This diverse country, populated by a wide range of religions, cultures, and languages, has now turned these very values into lines of division. A division that births unimaginable atrocities. Events that took place have since been proclaimed to be some of the worst cases of ethnic cleansing in European history. It is here that our play unfolds.
The play starts at the beginning of the war in 1992. We're introduced to three characters, Alexander, Mirela, and Slobo. They've been childhood friends. They've known each other since they were 6-7 years old. Alexander and Mirela are lovers and they're set to be married. Alexander is a Bosnian Serb, Mirela is a Bosnian Muslim, but they grew up in a world that was a communist regime where religion was not part of their identity. And all of a sudden, when the war starts, the civil war starts in Yugoslavia, the division starts. And what is so powerful about this piece is we see how the division between the Bosnian Serbs and the Bosnian Muslims, how that divides Alexander and Mirela's relationship. We tell the story through the eye of a South African photojournalist, Peter. And he's kind of a representation of the audience. He comes in very naive, ignorant, not knowing the culture. He is kind of a representation of the audience.
I was about 6 years old when I first learned about the Holocaust and the history of my people and became aware of genocide. And we were in a small auditorium and I remember we were watching footage of the Holocaust, and it was very stark black and white footage. And I remember thinking to myself that there was no sun and there was no green grass and there wasn't any imagery that I could connect myself to. I grew up in the 90s and my grandfather always used to say that what was currently happening in Bosnia and former Yugoslavia was a complete replica and exactly the same thing that happened during the Holocaust to the Jews. And he always used to say, we say never again, but it is happening again. And it's happening again on European soil. And he used to always show me newspaper clippings and clippings of Time magazines, but it was in color this time. And it was the same images that I used to see from the Holocaust, but this time it was in color. And it was the same things. It was those stick figures with these big eyes and these women with these bare breasts, except there was something more relatable because now it was in color and I was in color. It just so happened that a few years later, I won a golden medal in a karate championship, and that earned me a ticket to the World Championship, which happened to be in former Yugoslavia. It was the last year that it was Yugoslavia in Novi Sad, and it was a land ravaged and traumatized by war. And this realization made remaining ignorant and oblivious kind of impossible, and I knew I had no choice but to come involved. And after varsity, when I studied theatre, I realized what a powerful tool theatre is to educate and to bring across a message, and I needed to play a role, even if it was the smallest role in attempting to prevent this pattern of hatred in human history. And later, fate had it that Sarajevo was for a woman who loved Sarajevo and was never able to return. Anne-Marie Dupree-Besdrob, who wrote Sarajevo Roses and was the ambassador of our project.
It is the closest thing that I would have imagined possible. I've seen the play several times, and every time I think this is uncanny. It really, really transports me back, body and soul, into that period during the war and being in Sarajevo and experiencing all of this, because I knew people who are represented by each one of the characters, and of course each one of them for me represents several people. So and then the atmosphere is great. The music, the sound, the lighting, everything together really, really captures that. I would have not believed it. When I'm there, I feel like I'm back in Sarajevo in the 90s. The relevance for me is that the message of war is universal. It doesn't matter where a war happens, how many people are involved, on which continent of the planet it is. Wars are the same. The warriors react the same. The victims experience the same trauma and pain. So it doesn't matter where you go with a war, the human experience will always be the same.
So I think one of the things that attracted us to Rwanda and wanting to perform in Rwanda is at the very time that this was happening in Bosnia, so was the genocide in Rwanda happening. And I think what's incredible about this show is it holds up a mirror. And all these situations, whether it's Rwanda or Bosnia or the Holocaust, there are intertwining similarities that we cannot ignore. I think there's multiple topics that Sarajevo touches on. It's not just about war. It's not just about genocide. We touch on social topics that are incredibly relevant, especially today. We use the context of the story and of the play to discuss toxic masculinity and gender-based violence, which we are all as a society dealing with on a daily basis. And it's something that we need to be aware of, especially as men. We need to acknowledge that there is this issue.
This is when we first realized that the piece was more than just theatre. We realized that this piece could actually be used to give other people who have suffered the same trauma a voice, a safe space to express their stories, tell their stories, to let them feel like they're not alone, that there are people, young people at the bottom of Africa who know their stories, and gave them really a platform to engage and to express and to feel. Theatre is the most existential of the arts because it leaves no concrete trace. And theatre's power is in the audience's knowledge that when those lights go down, for the however many hours, every single person in that darkened room is going to share an experience that is entirely unique. And no show will ever be exactly the same. And this is what makes it truthful. And the knowledge allows the performer and the audience to create this bond that is completely founded on the fact that this experience is the secret that they share. And outside of the room, no one will ever be privy to. And this is the intimacy. And when it's harnessed, it can create a truly lasting emotional impression. And it provides opportunity to tap into our innate ability to empathize and to sympathize with one another. And this way, tales that may seem from a faraway place, from Rwanda, from Sarajevo, from Syria, all of a sudden seem close and personal, and it reminds us that we all come from the same human condition.
And welcome back from that compelling piece. You're still definitely tuned in, and this is Ubumuntu Arts Festival 2020. My name is Paula. I'm sure that Sonia had kept you company all afternoon long. So that piece that we just watched, we have the brains behind the piece right on standby now, and we're going to be talking to them. So feel free to send your questions and make sure that you tweet at Ubumuntu Arts Festival on all social media platforms. Use the hashtag and also contribute to the conversation. So I'll be introducing Samuel and his crew. Samuel, Anne, and Ivan are waiting. Hi, guys.
Hello, beautiful lady.
It is so good to see you. It is really, really awesome. Thank you for joining the festival this year.
Gorgeous.
All right, so let's get into the introductions properly. Samuel, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves individually and tell us what this is about.
Perfect. So, as Paula stated, my name is Sam Hyde. I am the producer and composer of the show, and I also play the role of Alexander. And to my right, obviously, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is May Mika Ntuli, and I am the writer, director, and I play the role of Milena in the show.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Ivan Nedeljkovic, and I'm humbly just one of the actors in the show. Yes.
So,
Ivan.
Yes, hello.
So you asked us basically what we do with regards to the show as well. Sarajevo is obviously a play, and we use the landscape of the Bosnian War kind of as a motivation to spread some form of education on war, genocide, social injustices, gender-based violence, which is obviously very topical right now. And that's basically what our aim and motive is with the production.
Okay. Because your audio, I can barely hear you, so I would ask that you speak a little louder so everyone else.
How is that?
This is perfect. This is beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about the inspiration behind your piece. It is very compelling. It is, you look at that and you just see all this, really deep experiences. And what did you see? What did you think about? What were you feeling when you put it all together?
I think with regards to the writing process, it was very much based on the actual experience of being in former Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
And really hearing the stories of ordinary people who are so desperate to have their voices heard. And I feel like when I was there, I was too young to actually listen to what they were saying. And it was only when I was older that I realized how much their stories touched me and how much their stories traumatized me. And being a third generation Holocaust survivor, I think it really penetrated in me. And when I became a theatre maker, it was only right that I gave these people a voice. So the images and the voices were just so vivid in my creation of the piece. And then, so that's just from a writing aspect. It's obviously fictional, but it's based on many true stories and true incidents that happened in the war. And then putting it together, because everything was just so vivid to me, the imagery was, and the smells and everything just stuck to me because of the trauma that it created within me. It was quite easy for me to translate that into a theatrical language on stage.
Yeah.
And I mean, the actors can talk about the process that we went through in order to create that.
Why is it important to tell these stories? I mean, this story is not, is not unique to just, some of the stories that you've heard from people that you have lived with, experience, but it cuts across different generations, it cuts across different cultures and, different histories. For those in Africa, there's a history. For those in Europe, there's a history. Why is it important to tell these stories now at this time in our lives?
Well, I think Fola, about a year and a half to 2 years ago, May and I kind of sat down and looked at what Sarajevo stood for. And we kind of really we had a moment where we decided to use the play for a different focus, as I mentioned before, for some sort of educational benefit, to open up a conversation essentially between actors and audience. And I think today of all days, in the current climate that we are globally facing, the uproar of racism with the Black Lives Matter movement, there's also an incredible rise in gender-based violence here in South Africa. A recent spurt of anti-Semitism in America that's been happening. Xenophobia in South Africa towards foreigners. There's an incredible amount of social injustice and social unrest happening as we speak. And I think that there's only so many ways that a classroom and a textbook can express a message to people. Yes. And I think that it is the artist and art's job to convey that conversation, whatever it may be. And I think that something that we've learned is a statement, after the Holocaust, when after the Nuremberg trials and everything, everyone said, never again. We'll never allow these things to happen again. But it has, time and time again. It's happened in Rwanda, it's happened in Bosnia, it's happening in Yemen now as we speak, it's happening throughout other African countries. Okay, we are allowing these things to happen because they are not directly influencing us. And essentially what we do by using the Sarajevo and the story of the Bosnian War, we use it to hold up a mirror essentially to other cultures and other religions and other groups who have either persecuted or been persecuted, to kind of engage in this and try to understand that no matter where you are and who you are, we are all liable to facing this persecution, and we all need to hold ourselves accountable. And never again can't just be a statement. We need to actively make sure that never again is something we live by. It can't just be a statement that is poetically driven past through people's mouths, So that's essentially where we're at with it.
Okay, before I let you go, Ivan, do you think we can stop it? Do you think that the more we tell the stories, do you think the more we, put this, the more we share our common human experiences, the more we make sure that voices get heard, through pieces like this? Do you think we can end this in the world?
I just have to state, because I was, I don't want to say privileged to be part of, the Bosnian War, etc. Through education, without any education, we are doomed to repeat our history. And this is what we're trying to do, essentially, like educate people through a very relatable process as to what happened and what the possibilities are of what could go wrong. It's actually as simple as that.
Wow. Guys, just before I let you go, where can we watch the entire piece? Is there somewhere that we can see the whole thing?
Well, we haven't put up the entire show as a video because it kind of takes away from the theatrical experience.
Yes.
So we kind of refrain from putting it up as a filmed version. We are getting it properly filmed in August, and then on how it turns out, if it really brings across the message the way it does in live, then we will we'll release it. But otherwise, it is going to stay in the environment of theatre. And as far as COVID will allow us, we're going to try and perform to. It is a very intimate piece.
Yes.
So we can perform it to very small groups of people. It can work for 10 audience members, 5 audience members. So we are going to be trying to just perform it for really small groups of people. It's not entertainment. It's education. It's an experience.
Yes.
So we are try and travel as far as we can and continue to spread the message. So we've got a Facebook page where all our information is on. It's called stage.sarajevo or sarajevo.stage. We put it on the site, the Ubumuntu Festival site, so you can have a look. And we're always posting performances and whatever. So we're going to try our best to persevere even through the pandemic.
Thank you so much. I mean, you guys have done an incredible work, and you are doing, you know, an incredible work, and we appreciate you for being part of the festival this year. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Ivan. You know, I like your name, Ivan. I think it's pretty cool.
Ivan. It rolls off the tongue just right.
I know, right? All right, guys. Okay, so we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will cut to Kigali, and where Hope Azida, the festival curator, is waiting to introduce the next performance.
Beautiful. Thank you
so
much. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Started with a cup of tea in a restaurant with a good friend of mine who works at the Kigali Genocide Memorial in Kigali. And his name is Glenn. And we're just catching up. It was 20 years after the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi. So he was saying that hope, I think right now we need to look at also stories of hope. We need to start looking at the stories of people who did miraculous acts in the genocide. Then I asked him to unpack for me some of those stories. And this very story you're going to see on stage, Bridge of Roses, started from that conversation. I was really taken aback when he told me about the story of Grace, a 10-year-old girl at the time of the genocide in 1994, who, against her grandmother's ideologies of genocide or ideologies of prejudice, that she should take a direction go with. The story was Grace was fleeing with her family, and on her way to Congo, she saw a woman lying by the roadside, breastfeeding a young baby of about 3 months. And the woman called Grace to come and take the baby. And as Grace was walking towards Congo, and the grandmother was in this crowd going to Congo, and then she just walked towards the woman, and the woman whispered to Grace that, take this baby. If she survives, then you have done for me what I would have done while I'm gone. But she said this in her last breath. So the woman died, but the baby stayed there. And Grace told her grandmother that, can I go with this baby? But the grandmother did not like the idea and said, if you take that baby, we will both be killed. Grace did not buy this idea. She was just only 10 years old. But anyways, Grace went back to the dying woman, took the baby, wrapped the baby in a blood-stained cloth, and carried the baby with her. Whatever she ate, whatever she picked food. But Grace, all she ever did was to live and make Vanessa and grow and help Vanessa grow into the woman she is today. Both ladies are alive today, but that cup of tea that we had at that time had a story that stayed in my heart. And at that moment, I told Glenn that if every human being could do what Grace did, there'd be more humans that we need right today. But I also asked Glenn, would you do that if you are 10 years old? So I keep also asking myself, if I were 10 years old and my parents told me to do evil acts like how we bring up our children, some of us, and it's a challenge. How many acts of humanity would we do in the face of death? So I'll just stop here and you follow the story. It's a short excerpt. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it as well.
My home, home, home.
In 1932, the Belgian colonial administration in Rwanda issued identity cards to all Rwandan citizens. They labeled anyone with more than 10 cows a Tutsi and less than 10 cows a Hutu. This created a specific division of 84% Hutu, 15% Tutsi, and 1% Twa in the population. Socioeconomic classifications now became rigid ethnic labels. The era of intermarriage, sharing the same language, religion, and culture crumbled. An imposed identity of Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa began to determine people's lives and economic opportunities as division was cemented under the colonial state. This created a social bomb in 1994 when over 1 million innocent people lost lives in the genocide against Tutsi. 26 years down the road, and we learn from miraculous acts done by extraordinary people. Grace, a Hutu, was 10 years old when the genocide happened. But against all odds of prejudice, she rescued a 10-month-old Tutsi baby and managed to raise her.
Why?
I had no choice but to tell her that her mother had been killed, that I found her and raised her, that I was both her mother and her sister.
Marie, when you first saw me, what kind of baby was I? What did I look like? What made you decide to take me?
You were just a normal baby. A little normal baby. I took you because I thought that whoever had slashed your mother, if they came back and found you alive, they would kill you too. Or you may simply die of hunger. You were a helpless baby, surrounded by death from every side.
What did she look like? My mother.
She was dark-skinned.
Dark-skinned, but I'm...
I know, you're light-skinned. I guess you look like your father.
My father?
Yes, and I'm sure they would have made a great family.
But why does your family hate me?
They hate you because you become a burden. They kept forcing me to get rid of you because they were afraid that you may get us killed. But again, how could I? I was confused. I didn't want to put my family in danger. I was just a child trying to raise another child.
But what had I done wrong?
Nothing. How could you? You were just a baby. It's just that you were Tutsi and were Hutu. Having you with us was like cheating on death. You see, they kept forcing me to abandon you on our way to Congo. But I told them to walk in front, and then I'll stay behind. And if I had to die, I would die.
Maria, there's nothing I could ever do to pay you back.
Come on. God bless me the day I found you. And he has never stopped by providing for us. Huh? Never forget that. We are both alive. Now, all I want for you is to grow up, find a good job, lead a good life. What do you want to become when you grow up?
My dream is to have a profession that brings justice or kindness or that helps people, like a judge or a doctor or an artist.
An artist?
Yes. If you could tell me any little detail you remember about my mother. What her hands looked like. her fingers, or her eyes. Then I could draw her. Yes, I would draw her. A picture of her, and I would share it with the world.
The hardest thing for me now is to ask for forgiveness. See, I love children, but I killed children. These days I work in an organization that cares for orphans, most of whose parents I killed. Anyway, something good that I have to do to help the children.
Rosa?
Carmen?
All I have left of your mother's memory is this blood-stained cloth that I found you in, wrapped you in, and used to carry you in on my back. I always loved African prints.
They say all things never truly die, but only change in form and design. One hope, one longing is enough to weave a piece of cloth, a living fabric that can keep me alive. Tuza wihangane, agahinda ke kuguherana. This world is choked with so many questions, but there is always a rose in a bush of thorns. This I know, no kuripe.
Mama, I didn't get to say goodbye. I never wanted to live without you. But now, all I have left is this blood-stained cloth. Before your soul left your body, you passed me on to another to survive this cruel, cruel world. But now, I have this. Oh, Mama, I will hold it. I will rest in it. I will wear it and take pictures with it and hang it on the walls of my heart that beats with the blood that we share. Oh, Mama, let the wings of your soul carry me with you. Carry me with you. For as long as I have this memory, we shall never be apart. I will live to make you proud, Mama. I promise. I promise.
Thank you very much, Masharika Theatre Company, for that brilliant piece. It is indeed very compelling, and it all brings, back to the theme of, the central slogan that we say at Ubumuntu Arts Festival, that I am because you are, and we're all human together. And, we use arts, we explore these human experiences. And talking about exploring human experiences, we do know that every year that we gather at the Kigali Genocide Memorial, it is a place that is of remembrance and a place of learning. And that's why our next presentation will be coming from the Kigali Genocide Memorial, and it is called Srebrenica 25. Please watch this piece and let it sink in.
Today, we remember the genocide in Srebrenica.
Just a year after we survived the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda.
We remember more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslims murdered simply because of who they were.
We remember those who survived, and we stand with you.
We remember that denial is the final stage of genocide.
And when we tell our story, we refuse to let yours be forgotten.
We remember your suffering right here at the Kigali Genocide Memorial.
And we remind our visitors that they should remember too.
Because those who forget the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat them.
As we remember with you today,
we encourage you to be strong.
Though we are far apart, our shared experience unites us.
You're our sisters and brothers.
You will always be in our hearts.
Honoring the memory of so many lost, together we can educate future generations.
Working with you to make this world a just and peaceful place for all our children.
Kwibuka,
Remember.
Thank you very much for that piece from the Kigali Genocide Memorial. And we also want to thank our sponsors and everyone who has contributed and is contributing to the success of the Ubumuntu Arts Festival. Thank you, Aegis Trust. Thank you for making this happen every time. Now we're going all the way to Kenya. Yes, we're going to Kenya and we're going to meet Yada Dance, who will be doing a piece called Puma. I hope I'm calling it right. It's a Swahili word and it means breathe. Now, every year at the festival, I learn something new. So now I have learned the Swahili word for Puma. Okay, all right, I love it. So here comes Yada Dance from Kenya. Enjoy.
Hi guys, before is Yada Dance Kenya, my name is Peter Adedewanga. We are a Kenyan-based company based in Nairobi, Kenya, and today we are happy that we are presenting this to you on your screens, on your phones, on your tablets. You know, Breathe is a project we've been working on for months right now, since last year. It's a project inspired by what we've gone through as dancers, what is happening in the world right now. And we didn't know this would come, but it's very practical. It relates well with everything that's happening. So life is a journey of twisted paths, you know, up hills, down hills. Sometimes you smile, sometimes you're sad, you know, but all the same we still choose to live, you know. When you watch different careers, you see a scientist, you see dancers, you see accountants, you know, all types of careers. Everyone has been on a busy schedule. We wake up in the morning, head to work, meet people, back again the house, been a routine all the way. You know, life moving so fast that sometimes we forget even to breathe, you know, like finding time, meet friends that you've not been able to catch up with during your busy schedules. You know, this piece, we are bringing you a ray of light. We are showing you how your life has been and impact it has on the people around you and on yourself. Sometimes you might think that when you're running to your own space, running away from things that people are saying, you know, the negative things, words people have spoken in your life, but even in your own space, fighting against your own thoughts, and which now brings about the cases of depression, you know, low self-esteem, you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your career as a dancer, as a scientist, as an accountant, you know, all those types of careers. Like you try to fit into other careers, but forgetting who you really are. Don't look at what your friend is doing, don't look at what your neighbor is doing. You'll find that you've wasted a whole life like trying to do so many things, but when you would have sat down and thought about what you want to do, it would have saved you a lot of pressure, a lot of negative energy, and you could have achieved more within a very short time. So believe in what you are doing, believe in your skill, believe in your gifting, believe in everything that God has given to you. You are as strong as how you think of yourself. By the end of this piece, you'll be able to see what that which you've not been doing and just reflect on it and meditate and just stop, breathe, be positive, believe in yourself and carry on with your life and live in the moment.
Con Breathe. Have we seriously forgotten how to breathe? It's taking a pandemic to teach us how to stop and listen, how to see and feel, how to be sensitive to the world around us. Now, a little too sensitive if you ask me, but hey, who's complaining? At least it's gotten us breathing again. Something most of us haven't done in a long breathing. A simple pleasure without which, if we love, we pay a very high price for. Breathe. I am breath. For as long as the vapor of his voice, as the vapor of his breath, we are formed. Breathe life. For as long as we breathe, we live, we move, we love. And when we stop, I die. I cease. I am lifeless. But in the midst of chaos, there's beauty. Beauty hidden in friendships. Friendships that lift and guide. Friendships carrying joy. Friendships with goodness, laughter, health, and healing. Friends are vessels. Ships that have set sail. Destination unknown. Destinations that could either end or send you on course to destiny. But what will we see? What do we see now? Most of the friendships we are with or in are more inclined towards, well, how do I say it? Adjectives. Oh, and? Oh! Oh, wow. Oh, come on. Don't act as if you do not know what I mean. You're not dumb. You know what I mean. You know who you are? You're a third wheel, honey. Feeding off of only other people's opinions, choking your identity over and over again. My God, you're rolling. Losing yourself every single day, every single hour. I mean, when do you ever become you? When do you cease from becoming an embodiment of everybody else's opinion? Because I mean, now you've become a ripple effect of other people's choices, other people's thoughts, other people's blah, blah, blah. And my God, it's boring. Boring. Where have you hidden your original? Do we ever get to introduce you to the world? As we relearn to do things in this strange, weird, uncomfortable gift of a season, let's learn to pick and choose right. But in the midst of it, breathe. Don't forget to breathe.
Hapa ni wapi tumefika? You don't wanna hold me like before. Ama leo umekasirika, 'cause you keep on banging every door. Maybe zangu zimeshika, you're not yourself anymore. Am I feeling like you're leaving? Nimeshinda panda shuka, siku hizi hakuna ngado. Leo sijakaribishwa, tuko wawili but I feel alone. Yeah, kwani nimebadilika, nikikuguza unasema no. I can't believe it. How are you leaving with no kisses, no hugs? Yeah, I don't wanna learn how to love you from afar. With no touching, no making love. I don't wanna learn how to love you from afar. How to love you from afar. I don't wanna love you from afar.
Out of everything else you could have chosen to be in this world, you chose to be a dancer? A dancer? I mean, listen to the sound of that dancer. My gosh. I mean, how idle are you, really? That he moves this, moves that. Let me tell you what you call moves. When did studying jumps ever become swag? Damn you, girl. Damn you. Scientist, you call yourself a scientist. You lack a life, that's what you are. Drawing other, look at what you did. Projecting your boring life on other people. Gosh, you disgust me. Accountants are just grown-ups who couldn't make friends. Hiding behind maths. Mathematics. Ha! Who? Come on. I mean, who in their sane minds enjoys paying tax? Tell me. But a lame bunch of crazies. Yes, 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 you're crazy. Hide whatever you want, but you're crazy. Cuckoo, cuckoo. All that math sending you cuckoo upstairs. Cuckoo, cuckoo.
I'm trying to hold my breath. Let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream with me, getting louder now. Can you hear it echoing? Take my hand. Will you share this with me? 'Cause darling, without you, hold the shine of 1,000 spotlights on the stars we steal from the night sky. Will never be enough, never be enough. Towers of gold are still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough, never be enough for me. Never, 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 never for me, for me. Never enough, never enough, never enough for me, for me, for me.
Msadim seke akatola matope bebe bebe. Atavala chikoba choseke tango bebe bebe bebe. Amatamangita mpaka wina to bebe bebe bebe. nkumukwapula mpaka yela bebebe bebebe amatiyo mvirombo na bebebe koma onse ho babe lolidia wafuna abwele apinle ye wafuna koma onse ho babe lolidia waitana abwele apinle ye koma onse ho babe lolidia waitana abwele apinle ye
And you're welcome back from Kenya. That was absolutely beautiful. I enjoyed every single minute of that piece. And we're moving from Kenya, we're moving to Burundi, where we have a piece called Musica by Umunyinya from Burundi. This is going to be beautiful. Enjoy it.
Musica is a play, first of all, brought by Burundian artists. It's a collaboration between three theater companies in Burundi, and it's a play by Aristide Tarnada, who is a playwright from Burkina Faso. And through this work, the word is watching a show of grunts, a show of screamings, a show of tears, and a show of fire. Every day in the villages and forests of the Democratic Republic of Congo, armed groups arise and rape, torture, violence and death have become very common games to see who is the best at stealing minerals. So Wamba, this mother who has lost 4 children in this tragedy, for her love to all the mothers and Musica herself, she has decided to do anything she can do to stop this. So, for her, no more children, if they are there to make mothers, to make women weep forever. This is Musica.
Toute la Terre attend des fusées et des trains beaucoup plus rapides et moins chers. Toute la Terre pense à déménager sur la Lune parce qu'il n'y a plus de dignité sur Terre, plus de dignité nulle part ailleurs. Toute la Terre pense à rééquilibrer la terreur avec de nouvelles bombes atomiques et des drones qui voyagent seuls pour aller briser des gueules. Alors, je le répète, Russia.
Ladies and gentlemen, ces corps angéliques qui feraient éternuer même des morts. Notre théâtre est réalité. Ces cris que vous avez entendus, ces cris de la forêt, ces cris au Kivu, ces cris à Goma, ces cris qui déchirent l'horizon du Congo. Avez-vous entendu ces cris?
4 fois ils sont venus et ils m'ont dit, ton gosse, donne un gosse ou alors on vous égorge tous. Et toi, en dernier. Moi? Oui, toi! Moi, c'est moi. Et j'ai décidé de combattre le mal par le mal. Et Mouhida m'a dit, faut Pas possible que ça soit des chiens. Les chiens ont commencé à entrer en nous il n'y a pas peu. Je crois plutôt que c'est ton homme qui s'en est plus sorti de toi. Allons-y, calculons. Et on s'est mis à calculer. Et Mhida m'a dit, quoi qu'il arrive, tu le gardes. Ce n'est pas un chien dans mon ventre, c'est un homme, mon homme. Existe-t-il encore des hommes dans ce pays? Oui. Ils ont été soit tués, soit devenus des tueurs et des violeurs. Les plus chanceux réussissent à se barrer de là. Le reste, je te le répète, ce sont des chiens enragés. Tu veux accoucher d'un chien? Non, alors quoi ceci? Toi! Moi je suis là. Moi je suis là pour qu'il n'y ait plus de chiens pour multiplier de chiens sur cette terre. Non! J'ai juré sur la tête de mes 4 enfants qu'il n'y ait plus de chiens ici. Alors bois, parce qu'au fond de ton ventre coupe se cache un chien.
Ladies and gentlemen, si ce soir on hurle de joie, si on a eu la chance de voir en live ces acteurs du théâtre burundais vous faire pisser du pleurer rire, si ce soir on se délecte de ce chaud de feu, ce chaud de sang, ce chaud de cri pissé par le chaud du coltan, c'est grâce à... Faites beaucoup de bruit, ladies and gentlemen.
Je ne veux pas que le coltan et le hors se nourrissent de mon corps et que je m'en trouve emprisonné dans un portail. Tu sais, si il y a eu tout le temps, c'est pour nourrir le coltan et le hors enfouis au sein de notre terre. Donc, pas de terre fumant, pas d'Iliane ni de haricots, pas de raffia. Je suis avancée.
I just know that you're having a brilliant time with Ubumuntu Arts Festival today. I mean, day one was pretty awesome, but you and I can agree that day two has been absolutely fantastic. So we've gone to Kenya, we've gone to Burundi. Guess where we're going next? Hey, we're going to Spain. Yes, absolutely. So we have another performance from Spain, and this performance is from Schaal, a group of amazing dancers, and they have a brilliant piece that they have prepared. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The Iron Skulls from Barcelona. I remember I was invited out to Barcelona as part of a competition for Festival Hop, where I was invited over as one of the judges. And I saw this piece which had won the year before. And when I saw it, I was very, very excited and had to bring it over here for a breaking convention. What's amazing about Iron Skulls is that they have trained to a high level with breaking, but they've also done some contemporary dance, which gives them a few more tools when it comes to making the work. They're bringing something new to the table. It's definitely an Iron Skulls style of movement. It's very rich, and they really embody all of the gestures that they use. One of the reasons why I programmed Synesthesia was because it did stand a little bit outside our current understanding of what hip-hop dance theatre is. I'd like to think that it breaks the convention of what hip-hop dance theatre is, actually. They definitely offer something new, and they're very proud of what they've brought to the table. I think when the audience see Synesthesia by Iron Skulls, they're going to be in awe of their amazing technical moves, but they will also have a few shivers up their spine. This particular piece is a dystopian vision of the future where animal becomes man and man becomes animal, and the hybrids of these creatures is what they're exploring with the movement. It's quite chilling at times, but very, very exciting, and there's moments where there's interaction with the audience, so be careful.
What a brilliant performance. I mean, believe me, I have seen several dance performances before, but that one took it to a whole new level. Thank you very much, Schaal, for doing that, for showing us that. And thank you everyone for staying tuned with us on Ubumuntu Arts Festival 2020. I can't believe day 2 is over already. Like, wow, it is so amazing. Thank you for being there with us. And we cannot wait to see you again tomorrow for another brilliant set of performances. So keep on interacting with us on all social media platforms. Keep on interacting with us on the app. And remember that I am because you are. And you know why? Because we are human together. My name is Fola. Have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
I cross my heart and hope I do not die. And even when everything isn't right, clench my fist and look up to the sky. Carry on, I hope I do survive. Bring the truth to who just wanted life. And even when everything isn't right, eventually now we gon' be alright. Eventually, if I do say so. Teach my boys and sisters what I didn't know. Keep my heart and soul from ever being cold. That's the only way our truth will be told. Eventually, if I do say so. Maybe not today, but maybe kesho. Zahora nuru muri bwejo. Mana humeza mururu jendo. Mururu jendo. Mana humeza mururu jendo.